The sole purpose of this video is to provide a basic overview and orientation of your new apparatus. This video is not intended to act as or replace individualized driver-operator training. Individual fire departments may base guidelines, policies, and procedures tailored for best practices. Pierce Manufacturing and Hughes Fire Equipment representatives are not liable for injuries caused from acts resulting from actions inconsistent with the information provided within this video and/or accompanying manuals. Refer to the Operation and Maintenance Manual for complete details relating to the components and features of this apparatus. Only trained personnel should operate this vehicle or perform maintenance. You are responsible for learning how to operate this fire apparatus under all conditions without having to refer to the manual while operating at an emergency incident. This video will discuss types of warnings and caution labels. It is your responsibility to locate and identify each of the labels and understand the importance and associated hazards. Warning labels will point out procedure that must be taken or action that must be avoided to guard against the possibility of serious injury or death. Caution labels will advise you that there is a risk of damage to property if certain precautions are not followed. Continuous training, reviewing of operation and service manuals, developing good standardized practices will assist driver operators with a more complete understanding of the components and operation of this fire apparatus. As the driver operator of this vehicle, you are responsible for understanding the function of each component of the apparatus, maintaining control of the fire apparatus at all times while in operation, make operational and functional changes while operating at an emergency without having to read operator's instructions or safety warning labels, operate manual override and emergency shutdown procedures immediately if a component fails to operate properly. Components location may vary with each Pierce fire apparatus. Review the exact location of each component prior to operation. Major inconsistencies between your vehicle and the information contained in this video should be directed to your sales representative. Safe operation of any vehicle is the responsibility of the driver operator. You must learn the location and function of all controls, switches, gauges, valves, inlets, and discharges. Due to a higher center of gravity, heavy trucks have a significantly higher rollover tendency than other types of vehicles. To reduce the risk of rollover, avoid making sharp turns, excessive speed, and avoid abrupt maneuvers. In the event of a rollover crash, an unbelted person is significantly more likely to become injured or die than a person wearing a seatbelt. In the event of a crash, unbuckled occupants can also become a hazard to other occupants as they may be thrown around inside the cab. Seatbelts are required while in operation. Please refer to your warranty certificates for details and information enclosed in your manuals. Customer-installed equipment must be mounted to withstand road travel and comply with NFPA 1901. Modifications such as drilling holes or welding to structural frame components of the chassis are not permitted. Contact Pierce for instruction and review of non-structural sheet metal or other dissimilar metals for modification. Follow the radio installation guide for further assistance on installing or mounting electronics. Before placing your new apparatus into service, perform a primary inspection of key components of the apparatus, including all fluid levels, anti-lock braking systems, electronic stability control, and automatic traction control. Weigh your apparatus to ensure that it conforms to axle and brake ratings. Never exceed the gross axle rating printed on the label inside the cab. Exceeding these ratings could lead to reduced component life, personal injury, or death. Review the use of auxiliary braking systems, compression brake, exhaust brake, electronic retarder, and hydraulic retarder. Before placing the apparatus in service, refer to the operational maintenance manuals. Information on the operation and maintenance functions for the components such as the pump, pressure governor, and foam systems, along with other options, is provided in either the Pierce manuals and/or other manufacturer support information delivered with the apparatus. If you need more information, please contact Hughes Fire Equipment. Congratulations, Meridian Fire Department, on your new apparatus, job number 29860. Please utilize this job number when referencing your vehicle with Hughes Fire Equipment or Pierce Manufacturing. Let's get started on a brief orientation of your new apparatus. In the front bumper on the corners, you have 2 electronic sirens. Moving inward, there are 2 face-mounted air horns. Located directly in the center of the face mount of the bumper is a mechanical siren. Moving up onto the top of the bumper location, this is the access point for your front bumper intake. On the opposite side, there is an 1.5-inch discharge port. There is also hose storage on both the right and left side. As we closer look at that intake, this is an air bleed for the intake. Looking at the right-hand side once again, the 1.5-inch discharge port, in addition with hose storage. Moving up onto the body, this is the headlight cluster with the left and right turn signal arrow. Moving inside the headlight cluster, the outer edge, these are your low beam headlights. Moving to the inside section of the headlight cluster, this is the high beams. Moving up from that location are your warning lights or emergency lights. And just up from that location is a grab handle. Moving just above the top of the window on the brow, there are running lights. Moving up further on top of the cab, this is your warning emergency light bar. And in the very front is a fixed forward-facing floodlight. As we get a little bit more in depth in your apparatus, we'll have some pictures that show a little bit closer ups of those points that we just talked about. Also mounted on the bumper, right and left hand side emergency lights. This is your swivel 1.5-inch discharge port. Moving up onto the front inlet air bleed for the large diameter intake on your front bumper. There are also straps to secure the hose within the tub. Your front discharge has availability for foam also. Looking underneath the front bumper, there are 2 frame-mounted toe closed hooks. This is the discharge location or drain for the 1.5-inch discharge on the driver's side. Close-up views of your light cluster on both the right and left side. Moving to the top, once again, the center-mounted fixed forward-facing floodlight. Just located inside the light bar is your Opticom mounted in the center. Generalized view of the driver's side of your vehicle. As we look toward the front cab of the apparatus, you'll notice on both right and left hand side you have a split mirror. Just to the very bottom on the step inside to the cab is located a light for working perimeter. There is also an inlet air hose connection point. To the right hand side in the red is an auto eject shore power inlet. Moving as a close-up of these, this is once again just the air inlet. This is your Goodyear G296 MSA tire. This is in the center of the tire, the wheel. This is going to be your Stemco hub seal. This is just to the rear of your front tire. This is a step to access the rear section of the cab with a step light. And at the very back section of your cab, there are two long compartments for storage. Generalized view of the upper section of your cab. Your fire department logo. Engine number. Moving to the section here just above this location, we're going to talk a little about the emergency lights. This is both front and rear key locked doors. This is the section I'm referring to. When you access this door point, it also gains access to the inside of the cab, also through the roll-up door. There is an adjustable shelf with inside that location also. Looking at the very top of your cab, you can see you have an Eagle flag logo, in addition with an emergency warning light located at the top rear section of the cab. Generalized view of the side section or mid section of your apparatus. We'll get into a little bit more detail in this section here also. Located in the midsection, there are steps to access the pump panel. Underneath those steps, there are perimeter lights. We'll talk a little bit more about these drain valves in the next set of slides. Moving upward onto the very top section of your cross-through compartment, there is an access point on both right and left-hand side. This is the location just under the smaller step for a side warning light. This is the access to the top location. There are 6 step lights in this location with additional pull-down footsteps. Generalized view of this section here as we'll move in closer. These are the 2 fold-down steps in the breezeway section. Just on top of the cab, there is also a secured location for storage. We'll get started now on your pump panel and some of the options that you've chosen on your pump panel. Underneath there are the working lights, in addition with a center mounted light. A generalized view of the top section of your pump panel, and then we'll break this down here shortly. Starting on the right-hand side of the pump panel, this is your front discharge, which offers water and foam. This is the driver's rear discharge. This is the number 3 driver's side discharge. And the next one over is the number 1 driver's side discharge. All of these are color-coded that match the discharge port at that location. Looking to the left-hand side, starting once again, this is going to be the engine cooler. Just below that is an electric primer. Moving up from that, this is your oil pressure for your engine. Moving to the right-hand side, this is your water temperature. This is the stop engine light, which will illuminate red. On the opposite side, this is the check engine light, which will illuminate in an amber or yellow color. This is the check transmission, which will also illuminate in yellow. This is predominantly the tachometer for your engine. Looking on the left side, this is the voltmeter. Moving over to the black circular, this is an adjustable alarm panel audible speaker. To the very top, this is going to be a panel light. There is also a location here for a future switch if you choose to install one. Moving down from that location, this is the switch that activates all of your panel lights. This is your pump engaged indicator that will turn green when it's properly put into pump position. This is an evacuate building audible alarm. driver's side floodlight, passenger side floodlight. Moving up to the very top, we'll talk a little bit about this. This is your Pierce placard. This is information regarding your pump and its testing. This is a warning label to make sure that you're qualified to operate this vehicle. As we look at the Pierce placard, it indicates the job number, pump in drive. These are your numbers associated with GPMs at 150, 200, and 250. And at the very bottom, 1970, the governed speed of your apparatus. Looking at your master intake on the left-hand side, moving over to the right-hand side is the master discharge. There are two test port gauges located just beneath this. This is the vacuum test port gauge, and this is the pressure test port gauge. We'll move to the left-hand side now. This is going to be your Detroit Diesel Fire Command Center. Just the arrow indicating here is your check engine light also, and then also another stop engine light. Just beneath that is your water tank level, moving from red to green. This is once again an additional audible alarm, which has an adjustment on it. This is your Husky foam system. On the right-hand side is the foam level for tank A. Moving to the left-hand side at the very top, this is actually a lever to pull and remove the dash panel, and I'll show you that in the next few slides. This is an electronic front inlet, and this is the front inlet air bleed. This is the opposite side of the pump panel. Once again, pull this quarter turn. This allows access to pulling down the entire front section of your pump panel for access for repairs. Looking at the left-hand side, this is the passenger side auxiliary inlet. Also moving across, this is the large diameter passenger discharge. Moving across, number 2 discharge. In the center, this is your real discharge, which also has access for foam. Number 2, speed lay. This also has access for foam. And the number 1 discharge or correction speed lay, this also has access with foam. And your deluge discharge. Once again, all of those levers are color coded to the discharge port. This is your Husky 3 foam system specifications. And as you move to the right, this is the tank to pump. And moving further to the right, this is the tank fill and the recirculating line. Once again, moving to the right, front discharge, foam. Driver rear discharge. Number 3 driver side discharge. And the number 1 driver side discharge. All of these valves have a twist to lock in position. As you look at the top, this is your extend-a-gun for your deluge system. At the very top, this is your connection for your hose reel. Moving to the right-hand side, these are the 2 right and left-hand side passenger floodlights. Generalized view looking from the front section to the rear section of your hose bed. We'll get a little more detail in that area also. Generalized view of the side of the pump panel, and this is where we'll start talking a little bit about some of those pump discharges we talked about. This is the foam pump discharge drain and the foam pump intake drain. This is a tub well for hose storage. Moving up above to access the speed lays, simply push the depress on the metal hasp, remove that on each side. You'll gain full access to the upper and lower section of your speed lay, which also houses the pull-out type hose lay. Generalized view of the side of the pump panel again. As you'll see at the very top, around the entire perimeter of this pump panel, there are black quarter turn twist opening. This will allow you to open the pump panel. There are also warning labels in this location. Please familiarize yourself with those. These are the quarter turn pull to access the backside of the pump panel. You have two work lights located on this side. Moving down from that, this is your number 1 discharge. Moving down from that, this is the number 3 discharge. On the driver's side, there are odd number, and on the passenger, they're even. This is indicating the large diameter intake. Pump shift, and as you move across, this is your pump drain. This is the placard for your wattress pump. Gives you information on the pump model and also the serial number. This is your foam inlet, which allows you to access foam tank and draft for foam. This is an access door. Once you gain access into the door, this is for your foam information. I advise you to read this information regarding access for foam. This is also the foam drain. As you move across the very bottom of this apparatus pump panel, this is the number 1 speed light, number 2 driver's side discharge, number 3 driver's rear and manifold drain. This is the placard that I was just mentioning earlier. It has a serial number of your pump. It also gives you the ratio of the pump. Once again, generalized view of the cab. This is with the steps in the down position. Those are folding steps on the bulkhead here. This is the top water section of your fill tank. This is your A tank for foam. Just above that, on your ladder section, which is a hydraulic removable rack, those are the locations for storage of your suction hoses. Generalized view of the rear section of your cab. We'll break into the individual compartments here in just a moment. We'll start with the very front compartment. Underneath that, there is the foot reel rind switch for your reel. And just next to that, this is going to be the location where you would store your folding wheel chock. There is also in the rear section a folding wheel chock to the rear wheel. Let's look inside the front compartment. We'll talk a little bit about the components at the top, but you have pegboard associated with a pull-out shelf, in addition with lit lighting with inside that area. Push down on the button here that's pictured to allow the shelf to be pulled in the outward position. There is also dry decking, which will keep things clean and dry within the apparatus. There is an adjustable shelf in this location. This is your air brake pump. Moving across is the auto charger. Looking at the center section of the cab, or correction body, once this door is opened, there is another access point to access the second door by lifting this lever. It gains you full access to the inside of this compartment. This compartment is housed with a pegboard pull-out door. It's on hinges and it allows it to swing in the outward position. Once it's also in the swinged out open position, there is additional pegboard behind it also for additional tool storage. Once the door is in the locked open position, to restore that, simply just lift up on the lever here, which will allow you to move the swing section of the tool board back into position. Just beneath the center section, there are 3 things I'd like to highlight in this location. First, starting in the very front, there is a bottle storage location. Once that bottle storage location is open, will gain you access to 3 locations to store your bottles, in addition with straps for allowing them not to slip out. This is a mid-cab mounted warning emergency light in the rear section just behind the rear tire on the driver's side. This panel houses your fuel for diesel fuel, and just above that, when you pull the handle down, this will allow you access to the DEF location in the blue section. We'll talk a little bit about this. This is shore power outlet, but let's talk a little bit more in general terms of the inside of this compartment. There are 3 adjustable shelves in this location, in addition with a pull-out shelf on the very bottom. There is also long storage on the left-hand side of this shelf. As we look closer at the electrical outlet, there are 4 plugs here. This is your shoreline outlet, which is a 15 amp circuit. Generalized view of the rear of the apparatus. We'll delve into a little bit more in this one also. Underneath the rear section of the apparatus, there are 2 lights to the rear, in addition with the very centerpiece being an attachment point or tow location. They're also mounted inside the bumper, 3 tail lights. Moving up from that location, you have 2 step lights on the right and left hand side of the door. On the outer section of the cluster of lights here, this is your reverse lights. Moving up from that location is your right and left turn signal. Moving up from that location is the brake lights. And just above the brake lights are 2 warning lights, emergency lights. There are also warning and hazardous labels located on the back. Please read those. Moving also, this is the location to activate your rear scene lights. Once that switch has been activated, it'll activate lights just above the location currently. This is your reverse camera. You also have a rear discharge port, 2.5 inch. There are 3 folding steps to access the higher portion of the running board, in addition with a step on the opposite side. Just a close-up view of that cluster of lights. This is a close-up of your department logo. With the compartment door in the open position, there is a pull-out shelf on the very top section, and on the very bottom section there is a fully extended that gains access just past the rear section of the tail board. This is the locking mechanism. Turn the latch, push, and this will allow you to gain access to pulling out the shelf to its full extension. This is the depression location that you would push to depress that lever. Once the lever is depressed, it'll allow you to gain access to that shelf that will pull out. This is referring to the light bar across the very back as your traffic advisor. In addition, this is the switch that controls the 2 upper lights for your rear scene. Activate the switch, which can also be activated from within inside the cab, and you will illuminate the rear scene lights. Moving up to the top, there is also a warning light on the very top, in addition with running lights on both the left and right hand side. Generalized view of the passenger side rear section of your apparatus. Looking at the top section of your apparatus, you can see you have plenty of storage for hose bed hose. This is the section for your foam tank for filling Class A foam. As you can see, it has a latch on it This is the one that's currently in the open position, is your water tank. It does not have a latch on it. This is the location for the manual reel rewind if you have a power failure or engine problem with that. As we move to the midsection of this cab, you'll see the rear storage for pull-out speed lays also. This is with the ladder rack in the down position or operational position. If you look at the side, there are warning tapes also to coincide with for safety, and also marker lights to indicate that the ladder rack is in the outward position for safety. Looking at the ladders, you have a 28-foot extension on the inside, and on the outside a 14-foot roof. Simply to remove the ladders, pull and twist to allow access to the ladders. This is the storage hasp which holds your long hard suction. There is also a 10-foot folding or attic ladder, in addition with long pike pole tool storage on this section also. This is the powered equipment rack activation device. You simply turn the device on, will give you a green light, activate this, which removes these safety levers, allowing the rack to be manipulated and pulled in the downward position. Generalized view of the passenger side of the rear section of the body. We'll look into the very rear compartment here. Same scenario, open the door. This will allow you to gain access to the lever on the other side, which will allow you to open both doors. Starting in the very bottom, you have two pull-out shelves. Moving up from that location, there is also a adjustable fixed shelf. There is also storage just above the other two shelves. Looking at the very top section of this shelf is also where the short outlet is. This is a 15 amp plug. Looking at the side section of your apparatus, same thing. Once this first door is open, you have to reach inside to activate the second door via the latch. And then there is on the inside of this a adjustable shelf. Looking at the side portion of this vehicle, once again, mid-cab. On the rear section, there are two access point doors. This is the fill location for your equipment rack hydraulic reservoir. There is also a mid-cab warning light or body light. Moving just to the front section of that, there is additional bottle storage. Once opened, you have access to 3 locations for bottle, in addition with straps for safety. Looking downward, you have a marker light. Just beneath that marker light is an additional warning label. That warning label pertains to the exhaust. Just underneath this section is also the location of your exhaust. Just to the rear of that is also the location for your automatic tire chains. Moving just forward of that also is the foot pedal for the hose rewind. And moving to the front, this is your front inlet drain. Looking just up above that to the next compartment up, once the compartment door is open, you have additional storage. That storage is also the type that you can push the lever, which allows that shelf to retract outward. You have 2 of those located in that location. Just above that, an adjustable shelf. Generalized view of the passenger side of your pump panel. We'll get into a little bit more details on this also. There are 2 work lights located on this side. Just below that, this is the section for the equipment rack activation for raising and lowering. This is the location for the cab lift to tilt the front of your cab to gain access to the engine. There is an additional discharge port on this side, 2.5 inch. Moving across, this is the large diameter intake. Moving just to the right of that, this is the large diameter discharge. There are also 2 doors here to locate for quick access behind the pump panel. Located in the top one is the intake relief valve. And the next one down gains you access into the location just beneath the center of the pump. Moving to the right hand side, this is your speed loads. There's also a tub tray for hose in the lower section of the panel. Looking at the lower section of your pump panel, this is once again on the passenger side. We'll go through some of those valves and ports that you have on this side. Starting on the left-hand side, we'll look at those ports here shortly. Here we are on the lower left-hand side of the pump panel. This is the section that you will gain access for drains. The lower section of the pump panel has about 4 drains in this location, starting on the left-hand side of the pump. This is the intake relief valve drain and also your large diameter passenger side discharge drain. Number 2, discharge. Number 2, speedway drain. As you move across, this is your air inlet for the passenger side to let the air out for that valve. Generalized view here of the front section of the cab, passenger side. Also has the step warning light underneath, and also just in front of that, this is the location of that compartment, which is exactly the same on the opposite side. Once again, very top section of your cab, a warning light. Looking just to the rear of the front tire, this is the step with a light for visual appearance so you can step in. Looking at your logo, and just above that, once again, the Eagle American flag. This is an access door from outside to gain access into the compartment, which also allows you access from inside to gain access into this compartment. Looking at the rear, with the door open, you can see the hazard and warning labels also on the doors. Please take note of those. As we move inside the cab, this is the rear section of the door. On the actual door itself, you have some warning tape. Just above that, a door light to indicate in case someone's in the traffic that it can be seen it's open. Just above that, in the center section, is a step light and also a handle. Moving up just from that location, this is your door lock mechanism. Moving to the right of that is your electric windows, and there are warning and hazard labels in this location also. This is the front section of your cab entrance point. Same thing, you have the warning tape on the bottom with the lights also. This is looking at the driver's side. You have the warning tape with lights. In addition, there are 4 electric window operation sites from this side for the driver. This also has a center-mounted locking mechanism in the door handle. Looking at the once again driver's side of this vehicle, this shows your auto charger. Once your shore power is plugged in, it will register the information on the auto charger. General view looking inside the cab. As we look at the operator's seat, just on the driver's right-hand side, as he reaches down just beneath his knees, this is the forward back on the back of the seat and also the raised lower air ride system of the seat. The bottom on the right-hand side of the driver's operators, there is warning labels and caution. There's also the Pierce manufacturing label, which houses the year, job number. It also has a VIN and fluid levels. Generalized view of inside the cab lower section. As we look to the floorboard, this is a pedaled air horn. Moving up from that location, this is the quarter turn on-off switch plus the engine diagnostic port, and there are 4 switches on the bottom at the lower section. This is your fuel prime and load manager switch with also future locations for additional. Generalized view looking at standing level into the cab. This is on the steering column, your hazards. This is going to be your left and right turn. If you pull, this will also indicate bright lights. This is push for telephoto on your actual column and push for, or pull for tilt, which allows the wheel to tilt. Starting on the left-hand side, you have your ignition switch. Just above that, this is the start location for starting your apparatus. Just inside that to the right-hand side, on the next slide, you have an emergency master switch, on-off for your headlights, and panel rocker for dimming. This also is equipped with SRS for airbags. Looking on the right-hand side is your on high idle. This is a generalized shot here, also indicating the pump. This is the OK to pump switch and pump engage. Those are green indicators once the pump has been moved from road to pump. Also looking down here on the right-hand side, this is your main mirror and convex mirror control. Another shot of the pump to road information. This is the on-off for your high idle and OK to high idle, which indicates a green illuminating light. Generalized view of the dash, we'll break that down here shortly. Looking at the left-hand side, transmission, oil, DEF, and water levels, plus your tachometer. Moving to the right of that is the miles per hour or speedometer. Miles per hour here located, volts, front air and rear air, and your fuel level. When the vehicle battery switch is turned on and the ignition is in the on position, it will illuminate all of the lights on the dash so that you can visually see that they're all in operation. Looking as a general view from the operator's position. This is your pull to apply your system parking brakes. This is your Allison transmission pad indicating pump in drive. These are the switches just above the Allison pad for the engine brake. The engine brake, the low, medium, and high, activates your tire chains. This is your siren traffic advisor. To the right of that is your windshield wiper. If you push, it will activate the fluid. This is your rear camera monitoring system. Climate control. Looking overhead from the operator, just pay close attention to the yellow warning label. There is also visors on both right and left-hand side, and there is also a device to allow it to be turned to hold the visor in a secure position on a bumpy road. As you look at the left-hand side over the driver's head, this is the location you're going to find your yellow placard, which indicates the height, length, and gross vehicle weight rating. This is another location for the job location or job number. This is the emergency master, roof, front, side warning lights, and upper and rear warning lights. This is your high beam flash, your opticom, 2 blanks, siren horn, and your siren brake in red. Front scene, driver's side, passenger side, floods, and rear scene. Mounted in the center of the cab, this is the location for your Pierce seatbelt indicator, indicating who has their seatbelts on and who does not. This is a location to attach your microphone. Just beneath or just in front of that, this is going to be the warning light if you have a compartment door open. Generalized view of the top with your AC unit. This is a location for headset plug-in. There are 4 of these located throughout the cab. Looking at the rear section of the cab, you can see the 2 blue box for your communications and the push overhead on-off red lights. Looking from the exterior of the cab inside, there are two compartments located right behind the passenger and driver's seat. Once this compartment door is in the up position and gains access, there is an adjustable shelf within inside that location on both right and left hand side. Just above that location also, there is a compartment which is accessible slightly above those compartments we were just showing you. This is an open compartment for storage. There's both this compartment on the right and also on the left-hand side, passenger and driver's side to the rear. Once again, overhead push white, push red lights and your heating and air conditioning system. This is for your AC. There is also an access port which gains access under the cowling to gain access for the oil and transmission checks. There is also a push button light in here so that you can verify and visualize that easier. Just mounted on the sides of the SCBA seats, there are also bottle storage or SCBA storage. And there are two forward-facing SCBA mounted seats also in this location. Above those are the two communication devices and the two yellow for headset holding. This is another picture of the passenger side of the rear-facing compartment storage. Generalized view from outside the cab looking in of the two storage locations. Looking at the inside section of the driver or the passenger side, once we access inside this location, this seat also has an air ride adjustment, but it is mounted with an SCBA inside the seat. This is the location to access for raising and lowering the seat. As you can see, these seat belts are clearly indicated in the color of red. This is looking into the inside of the cab. Your vehicle is equipped with a supplemental restraint system. Please be aware of those warning labels. On the location of your feet, you have an air horn and a mechanical siren foot pedal. To the right there, just by the door hinge, this is going to be your fill for the windshield wipers. Moving up from that location, this is where your airbag is stored. This is a grab handle on the right-hand side of the A-pillar. These are warning do not remove labels indicating that there are wire and termination information behind this location where the placard is at. On the left-hand side of the passenger, this is the location where you have your 12-volt access. There are two on the very front for 12-volt access. There's also one on the side next to the siren brake. This is also location of your visor and the mechanism to allow the visor to be held in the upward position. Just above the or the passenger's head, this is a speedometer. Moving to the left-hand side to the center, this is going to be your intercom system. Congratulations, Meridian Fire, on your new apparatus, job number 29860. If you have any questions regarding this video, please direct that to your sales individual for Hughes Fire Equipment. Thank you and have a nice day.